Homemaker Helen Jorg is suing her former friends, 27-year-old daycare provider Larissa Roberts and her boyfriend Paul Dukin, for the return of pictures and family heirlooms. Larissa and Paul are countersuing for storage fees and pain and suffering.
Yes, case number 202 on the calendar in the matter of Jorg versus Roberts Dukin. All eyes have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Jorg, the defendants were friends of yours, according to your complaint, and there came a time when you were being evicted from your apartment. You stored some things at their home, according to you. The storage lasted a little bit longer than anticipated. When you called and said you wanted your stuff back, they say it's gone. When did you start to store your property at the defendant's house?
In March, my apartment building had gotten sold, and a new owner came up, took over.
Just, let's keep it simple. March of 2003, you were being evicted.
Yes.
When did you have to get out of your apartment?
I went to court and stuff, and I had to get out till June 16th.
And where were Miss Roberts and Mr. Duncan supposed to store your things?
She was over helping me, and she said that she could help me store my stuff for nothing. I was in a hard time, and she had the money to help me, that she could help me.
I want you to answer my questions. Where was she supposed to store your property?
In a storage shed behind her house.
Is that right?
It's my shed on my property.
And did you move the property to your house and the storage shed, or just the storage shed?
To the storage facility, because the people
What do you mean the storage facility? That's where we're coming into a problem.
Into a storage unit.
When did you move the property from your house into a commercial storage facility?
The same day.
Why?
Because I couldn't fit it in my shed.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, it was discussed.
No, you did not.
So you moved her things from your house, where you said that you would store it, and your shed, into a commercial facility the same day you got the stuff?
Yes.
You have the bills from the storage facility?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them. Well, this says that on the 16th of June, she started a storage facility, and that September of 2003, some 3 months later, was the last month that the property was there. Is that right?
Yes.
When did you find out that
Your Honor, I went by her house on June 21st on a Saturday, and I went to go see if I could use the telephone, and I pulled up in her driveway, and her daughter was in the window. I went and knocked on the door, nobody came, and up in her driveway behind the fence sat all of my stuff out in the rain.
You saw that?
Yes, I did.
So what did you do when you saw that?
I went to the door and I knocked, nobody answered. She called and left a message on my phone. My message told me not to come to her house without calling before I came up.
If you saw your property that was out in the rain, why
I couldn't get back behind there. It was locked and she wasn't home.
Just a second. You get the police and say, she has my property, it's being ruined, I want to take it, and I'll put it in a storage facility.
Right. Well, I didn't have the money at that time to do it, and she offered to do it for nothing. And Michelle here knows that she was in the house that day that I knocked on the door.
She may have been in the house when you knocked on the door, but what I'm saying to you is, if you say you saw your property on that day, why didn't you get your property off her property?
I had no way of even hauling it, in my car. I had no way of doing it. And I tried calling her on August 2nd.
Well, what did you think she was going to do with it after the 25th?
She was supposed to put it in her storage unit. Every time she took stuff over there, I said, do you have enough room? Yes, we're rearranging. It'll all fit in there.
Soon after she took your stuff, you knew that it wasn't in a storage shed behind her house, and it wasn't in her house. What did you do between June and September to get your stuff?
She said everything was safe, put away, and it wasn't sitting out there.
But you knew that that wasn't true.
No, I went back by, and it was not there anymore. And I called on August 2nd.
I'm not talking about August. I'm talking about June.
I know,
July.
but August 2nd, I called to get my stuff back because I was ready to get my stuff and move it. And she wouldn't let me have it.
Okay. Step up here, please.
Michelle?
Tell me your name.
Michelle Doker.
You know anything about this?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to hear what you know about it.
I was over at Paul and Larissa's on a weekend, and she was talking to Helen, and I overheard a conversation that she was willing to help Helen with packing and moving, and she knew Helen didn't have the money to get a storage shed, and so they were going to help her out and get it for her.
For how long?
Until she got on her feet.
What if it took 5 years? How long? How old are you?
Been gone for 2 weeks.
Shh. How old are you?
I'm 49.
When was the last time you were on your feet?
Just prior to, well, I lost my apartment in June, and then I got another place to live in August.
Prior to losing your apartment in June, madam, what you're telling me is that you didn't have $30 a month to give to a storage unit. It suggests to me that you hadn't been on your feet in a long time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So
but she knew what my income was, what I was getting, and she said that she had the money, and she told me she would do it for nothing. She wanted to help me out because she knew I had...
Would do what for nothing?
Store my stuff. And she,
in a storage store your stuff in a storage facility.
At her house. No, at her house.
No. Listen to me. We're not going to play with each other. According to you, she said she knew you didn't have any money, and she was prepared to pay for the storage of your stuff because she was prepared to help you out that way.
Right.
Well, paying for it means in a commercial facility.
She had offered that, and I told her not to do it because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And then she came over one day and said she had already rented it because they were going to use it, and that if she had to, she'd put some in there.
So that was after you saw your property out in her backyard, according to you, on June 25th. You can sit down now.
No, she offered the storage unit and said she had went and got it before I had seen it on her property.
So you knew then, Miss Jorg, that she was going to rent a storage unit to put your things in.
I didn't authorize her to put it in a storage unit.
What happened to her things?
They were in the storage unit. Come August, her boyfriend started calling and threatening me on my answer machine. He said that he didn't want to do anything to put him back into prison. I had to change my phone number.
Well, let me ask you this question. When she called for her stuff, what did you say to her?
I wanted reimbursed for the storage unit.
And how much was it that you wanted to be reimbursed?
$300.
How much did you pay for the storage unit?
It was about $300, all total, because there was late fees, because I couldn't pay it on the 1st of every month.
And how much of your stuff was in there?
Nothing.
And you're telling me that all these figures add up to $300, is that right?
I do believe so.
All right. When did you ask her for your property back in August?
I called her August 2nd, and I called her about 11:30, and
Is that true?
It was her and her boyfriend that was calling.
August, was it around August 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But I called her...
So then I'm eliminating certain amounts of money, everything that was billed after August 1st, because you weren't entitled to $272 on August 1st. There was money added. So let's figure out what she owed you as of August 1st, if she owed you for this.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You sold Wayne the Hitachi, and he just paid the storage fees.
Yep.
You're a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
And later today,
they had got mad at me because I switched babysitters, and so they called my mom and dad and told them that they needed to come get my stuff because they were kicking me out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Helen George says former friends Larissa Roberts and Paul Dukin won't return her belongings. Larissa and Paul claim Helen wasn't paying her storage bill.
Okay. Now, at that point, she owed you maybe $138, and that is if I believed that there was nothing of yours in the storage shed. Something that I find it hard to believe, that you rented the storage shed for her and you didn't have any of your own stuff in there. But at that point, you know you $300, and you had already paid $138. You could have said, listen, go get your stuff, but I'm going to take you to small claims court and sue you for the $138. Instead, what you allowed to happen was you allowed all of her property to be gone.
I sold it to a friend of hers.
Your Honor,
Well, just a second. That's outrageous.
He paid for the storage unit.
Your
That's
Honor,
outrageous. Why didn't you just give it back to her?
Couldn't get in the storage unit unless I paid it.
In August? You had been paying in August, according to this bill that you gave me.
As of August 5th, it was late, and they wouldn't let us in.
She called you August 2nd.
She never showed up for the time that she agreed to meet us to get the stuff.
When did she agree to meet you? When?
I can't remember exactly what date it was.
Okay. What was the name of the friend who paid the storage unit?
His name
Wayne.
was Wayne.
You know that person?
yes, I do.
Have you spoken to Wayne?
Yes, I have, but he's in back in prison right now, and he did not buy the stuff.
All right. What stuff was in here?
20 years of my life, my personal stuff, I mean, everything. Michelle helped to get some of my pictures back and a few of my stuff back.
From Wayne?
Yes.
From Larissa.
She was seeing Wayne.
And Michelle's been over at Larissa's house. And
For the last 2 years, no.
Shh. Shh. Don't speak.
And Michelle told me that she's got stuff of some of my stuff in her house right now.
Like what?
She's got TVs, kitchen stuff.
No, I do not.
Pictures.
Were these things that were taken out of your apartment?
Yes.
What
She
kind of
has pictures.
televisions did you have?
I had a 46-inch Hitachi.
That was supposed to be in storage?
Yes.
It was. It was.
It was? And are you telling me that you sold Wayne the 47-inch Hitachi and he just paid the storage fees?
Yep.
No.
Don't believe you, my dear.
No.
You're a liar.
Everything
You're a
was in
liar.
there.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. What do you do for a living?
Daycare.
Somebody entrusts you with their children?
Yes.
What a mistake. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
About your stuff. The return of your stuff. The return of your stuff, Helen.
I thought she was a friend.
I didn't know her anything.
I find out later she intended to take my stuff all along.
I was just being a friend.
Friends don't do that to friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lambert versus Jones. Step forward, please.
Nurse's assistant Jerry Lambert is suing her former friends, Kevin and Rhonda Jones, for stealing her DVD collection. Kevin and Rhonda are countersuing for unpaid babysitting fees and damages to their car caused by Jerry's 7-year-old daughter.
Miss Lambert, you and your children needed a place to stay. You were having some difficulty, and the defendants, according to your complaint, took you into their home with your children. When you left, which I gather were not under favorable circumstances, Mr. and Mrs. Jones kept some of your DVDs.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you're suing for the return of these DVDs. Mr. and Mrs. Jones acknowledge that they have the DVDs, but they say in their counterclaim that you owe them for some babysitting fees and some damage that your little girl did to one of their cars. How do you know them?
Well, they've been friends of mine for over the last few years.
How many is a few?
About 7.
And why did you need a place to stay?
Because I moved back from where I used to live in Independence, Kansas for my brothers and stayed over there at their house, and they said I can move in and stay with them until I found another place to live.
Did you call them and tell them that you wanted to move back to town?
They called me at my brother's house.
To say what?
That they wished that I would move back to town, and they missed seeing me and the kids.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you invited her to come to your home?
Yes.
That was very nice of them, right?
Right.
When did you arrive at their home?
The 28th of April,
And when did you leave their home?
the 19th of May.
Why?
Because I had gone to work and they had got mad at me because I switched babysitters from having Rhonda watch my kids to a different babysitter. And so they called my mom and dad and told them that they needed to come get my stuff because they were kicking me out.
And why did you switch babysitters?
Because my kids were getting yelled and screamed at their house. They weren't being able to go outside or nothing like that.
Now, you arrived there on April 28th. When did you start working?
About the following week after that.
So the first week in May.
Mm-hmm.
So you were working about 2.5 weeks.
Uh-huh.
That's the babysitting that you are requesting?
Yes.
Did you have an arrangement with her with regard to babysitting fees?
Yes, I did.
And what was that arrangement?
That she would watch my kids while I was at work.
And how much were you supposed to pay her?
She never told me.
Did you ask her?
No, I didn't.
Did you think you had to pay her something?
Yeah.
Well, how much were you planning on paying her?
It just depends on how much she was charging me.
How much are you paying the current babysitter for watching your children?
It just depends on how much she asked me for, because she's a friend of the family's.
Well, how much did she ask you for last week?
Last week I gave her $70.
And the week before?
I get paid every 2 weeks, so
2 weeks before that, how much did you give her?
$70.
So you give her $70 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What are your hours of work?
Anywhere from 2 in the afternoon till 10 at night.
So when somebody babysits for your children, they really are feeding them and putting them to bed, doing their homework with them. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what arrangement did you have with Miss Lampert with regard to payment for babysitting?
Oh, I was charging her $1 an hour per kid.
Is that what you arranged with her, is my question, not what you were charging. So be very careful what you say to me, Miss Jones. Very careful.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerry Lambert says former friends Kevin and Rhonda Jones won't return her DVD collection. Kevin and Rhonda claim Jerry's 7-year-old daughter vandalized their van.
Did you have an agreement with her to be paid $1 an hour per child?
Yes.
When did you make that agreement with her?
When she got a job and started work.
And when was that?
It was around, I started watching, it was in May, around the 4th or 5th.
You watched the children for 2 weeks.
Right.
And how much do you say she owes you for the 2 weeks?
It was $134.
$134.
Right.
Okay, that's most reasonable. Did she give you any other money while she lived there?
She just gave us money for the utility bills.
She did. How much
Yes.
money did she give you?
The $150 for that month.
And what about food? Did she purchase her own food?
She was there for 2 weeks before she bought any food.
Okay. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's get to the damage. When do you allege that Miss Lambert's daughter, I assume this little girl over here, damaged your property?
We were sitting inside her uncle and aunt's house, and my daughter was outside playing with them, and she come to make it to our attention that the child over here was...
Well, you didn't see it.
Right.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about what happened.
I was outside playing and I went around the garage and I come back because I was trying to find a basketball. And I come over to Nixie and I looked over and I seen Jesselyn scratching on the side of the van with a rock. And I went in and ran to my mom and dad and found her and told them.
Did you tell her to stop?
Yes.
Did she stop?
No. Me and Nixie tried to get her off of the van, but she wouldn't listen. She said it was a chalkboard.
How old are you?
No.
How old are you?
7.
7. When did you tell the plaintiff about it?
She was present at the time that she come in and made it aware to all of us at the same time.
Remember that, Miss Lambert?
Yes, I do.
Did you talk to your little girl about it?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
That she wasn't going to throw rocks at the vehicle again.
That she wouldn't do it again?
Mm-hmm.
So there really isn't a question that you're responsible for the damage to the truck, right?
Well, my daughter says she didn't throw rocks at their truck.
Can I see a picture of the truck, please? The only reason I ask you these questions is because you understand that if damage to your truck took place at a time when you were babysitting, that would have been your responsibility, even though it was her child, because you were supposed to be supervising her little girl. But if this didn't happen on your watch, but it happened on her mother's watch, it's her mother's problem. Mother has to pay for it. Oh, some nasty scratches. You have an estimate how much it's going to cost to polish
right
those
here
or
we
buff
have
them
an
out?
estimate.
Have you had the car fixed?
No.
Okay. You're not friends anymore, I assume.
No.
Why not?
I just don't want to be friends with people like them anymore.
They sounded like very nice people to me.
Well, you don't know them as quite as well as I do.
Well, they were really nice people. They invited you to come home and live with them. They said you could stay with them until you got on your feet. They opened their home to you. They provided you and your 3 children with food. Sounds to me like they're very nice people. In any event, you owe her $134 for babysitting, and I'm awarding them an additional $800 to have the car painted for a total of $934. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim. The plaintiff gets her DVDs back. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, you may step out. This is case number 211 on the calendar in the matter of Snow versus Dean. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Snow, you, according to your papers, were having an affair with Mr. Dean prior to and during the separation that he had with his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Dean, in order to ensure that his wife wouldn't get her hands on some of his property, had you take out a storage unit in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
Where he put his property. And you want him to pay all the storage fees that you paid on that unit.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Dean says the storage unit was supposed to be in both your names, that he told you within a couple of months that he was reconciling with his wife, that he wanted his stuff back, that you refused to let him take his stuff back, and you allowed the fees to build up on this storage unit. He acknowledges he owes you about $100, and he is counterclaiming for all of his stuff. When did you separate from your wife, Mr. Dean? Give me the month
February.
and the year. Shh. Let me finish the question. Month and year.
February 2004.
Beginning, middle, or end of February?
Beginning.
And when did you move your stuff out of the house?
Before the 15th of February.
And is that when you asked Miss Snow to make arrangements for a storage unit?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did you reconcile with your wife?
In March.
Beginning, middle, or end?
In the middle.
We're still working on that, Your Honor. We have not gotten back together.
When in March did you tell Miss Snow that you wanted your property?
Actually, she found out that I was talking to my wife, and that's when she went ballistic.
Do you remember when that was?
It was around the middle, towards the end.
And how much was the storage unit?
It was $141 a month, and it went to $145.
Well, if you went ballistic and you stopped seeing him in March, why did you keep paying on the storage unit?
I paid, the first payment was done the 7th of February. The second payment was done around the 11th of March. That's when I stopped payment, when I found out he was with his wife.
Fine. So that's 2 payments of $141.
Right, I have the receipt.
That's $282. Why are you suing him for $1,000?
Plus, there is another outstanding of $577 that's owed on the storage unit now.
Why didn't, well, I understand that. Why didn't you allow him to get his stuff in March?
Because I went to him to get his stuff. I went to his father to pay me the money that he owed me, plus I went to his sister, and they all promised to give me the money.
When?
Around the end of March, before the next payment was due.
When did Mr. Dean call you and ask you for his property?
He never did call me.
Go ahead.
I had talked to him prior. My father had offered to pay her the money. My sister had offered to pay her the money. My wife had offered to pay her the money.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I offered. She didn't want it because she was being vengeful.
She was angry because
yes,
she went ballistic.
Yes,
she
ma'am.
found out you were talking to your wife.
That was the whole case, yes.
That sound right, Miss Snow?
No, ma'am.
Well, he certainly owes you $282. He doesn't owe you any more. Where's his property?
It's in a storage unit.
Your Honor, the storage unit is being auctioned. She has the only keys to the storage unit. I offered to ask her to sign it over to me. I take over the payments.
When?
I would say we met the beginning of March, and I told her that I would take over the payments. She signed everything over to me. She said I was welcome to pay on it, but she was not signing it over to me, give me any keys, that she was keeping everything in her name until she got things worked out with Charles.
I went to both of them and said, when she came to me about the storage unit, she did not offer to pay me the money that was owed to me. She wanted me to give her the belongings without giving me the money that was owed to me. They could have had the keys. I don't want the stuff. It was appraised at $400 from the people in the storage unit.
So why don't you give them the keys?
They haven't given me my money.
Where are the keys?
Right here.
Give it to them.
Okay.
Good. There are the keys.
Ma'am, but the stuff is probably auctioned off by now.
Well, I don't know whether it is or whether it isn't.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe her $282.
Yes, ma'am.
And I find that you owe her $282 and not the $1,000 that she's asking
Yes,
for,
ma'am.
because I believe that after you and your wife started to talk again and you were reconciled, Miss Snow got angry. And she wasn't cooperative about you getting your stuff back. So if you let that stuff remain in storage, knowing full well that eventually they were going to auction it off, that's not right, Miss Snow. If, in fact, your stuff has been auctioned,
According to...
listen to me. Listen to me. I don't know whether it has or whether it has not, and neither do you. So I'm going to allow you to withdraw without prejudice your counterclaim. If, in fact, your items were sold, you have a claim against her for maliciously withholding your property. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $282, and I'm allowing you to withdraw your counterclaim if, in fact, your items were sold. You can sue her for the full value of the items that you have receipts for.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I believe that she's upset because I broke the relationship off.
I'm also married myself, and I wanted to make my marriage work.
We're still not together because I still believe that they're still having contact, regardless of what either one of them say.
I have not had any contact whatsoever.
My opinion is it's not going to end. It's going to continue.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robinson versus Gorman. Step forward, please.
Plaintiff Anna Robinson is suing her former friend, water well driller Paul Gorman, for the return of a 1989 Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul took possession when she went to prison for operating a meth lab.
Ms. Robinson, according to what I gather from your complaint, Mr. Gorman was a long-time friend of yours.
Yes.
And a trusted friend. And there was a period of time when you became incarcerated. You were incarcerated on more than one occasion. While you were incarcerated, you gave Mr. Gorman power of attorney to handle certain of your affairs, cash your checks, etc. During your second period of incarceration, it is your claim that Mr. Gorman appropriated a truck that belonged to you by misusing the power of attorney. You want the truck back or the value of the truck. Mr. Gorman says there is a very good reason why you can't have the truck back, and that's because he invested a substantial amount of money in the truck, including money to get it out of impound, where it was when you went to prison. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time you were incarcerated, Miss Robinson, when you gave Mr. Gorman the power of attorney?
98.
For what?
I was incarcerated for drugs.
And how long were you incarcerated?
16 months, I believe.
And when was the next time you were incarcerated?
July 12th of 2002.
And how long were you incarcerated?
For 3 years.
And that was for drugs also?
Yes.
When you were incarcerated in July of 2002, you had a truck?
Yes, ma'am.
What year truck did you have?
1989 Chevy Blazer.
And where was the truck when you were incarcerated?
I was driving the truck and it went to impound.
You were driving the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Were you transporting drugs in the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
And later today,
about 8 months in the relationship, Mrs. Frilling told me she had feelings for another female. I called her and I told her if she don't come get her belongings, I'm gonna throw them out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anna Robinson says when she went to jail, former friend Paul Gorman took possession of her Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul refuses to return the vehicle.
Did you ask him to get the truck out of impound?
Yes. I said if he got the truck out of impound, they could drive it for the duration of my sentence.
Is that the conversation that you had with her?
No.
You tell me your version of the conversation that you had with her.
She basically asked if we can get it out and stuff, and we didn't have the money ourselves. And then time, lapsed on. Then we finally got a notice. They gave us 1 week to impound. They're going to sell it. And then she said, if you guys can get it out, because I'm going to be gone for probably permanently, you guys can have it. And she mentioned to the neighbor, and she goes, well, I'll lend you the money if you pay me back, and I hold the title. I said, sure. So I have a notarized statement from her saying this is what happened.
Miss Robinson, what would have happened to the truck if Mr. Gorman didn't?
Well, it would have been lost.
So what difference does it make to you if he went and got the truck out?
Because it was my truck. I mean, he got it out for me.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying he called you and said they're going to sell the truck. I just got a notice. And he said what you said to him was, well, if you can get it out, it's yours.
I wrote him and them and asked him about the truck and various other things. How are you doing? What's up with the truck?
Well, do you have any letter from them indicating that they're taking care of the truck for you?
Nothing. They never wrote me back till the day before I got out of prison.
And then did they write you back?
They wrote me back and said, here's your address and here's our cell phone number.
What does that mean? Here's your address, here's your cell phone.
Because I wasn't sure where I was going to parole to. They were supposed to have moved within that 2-year period. And they never did end up moving.
Address.
Just a second. Why were they so... Shh, Miss Robinson, why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
That's why I was blown away. I couldn't believe they would do this to me.
Well, I don't want you to stop getting blown away, because I have to make a decision as to whether or not I believe him when he says...
He didn't
Shh, I'm speaking.
Sorry.
Whether I believe him when he says that you said to him, listen, do what you have to do. The truck's gone anyway. I can't get the truck out. If you have to borrow money from somebody, borrow money from somebody. He even says that he was prepared to give you the truck if you wanted it when you got out. All you had to do was pay him the money that it cost him to get the truck out of impound, plus what he put into the truck. Did you say that to her?
Half, I'll sell for half of what I put into it. I'll cut that in half since I've used it.
And what did she say to you?
Basically, at first said yes, and then the next thing I know, a couple of days, she moved out, and I haven't spoken to her since.
The day I moved out was the day he told me I couldn't have my truck back. The very next day, I went to the DMV so I could do this legally to get my truck back, and they had already told me that the previous year they took the title out of my name. A year after I was arrested.
I'm not talking about title back in your name. He said to you, give me the money that I...
And I agreed to that from the day one.
Did you give it to him?
No, I didn't have the money at the time. I was just out of prison. I wasn't a week out of prison.
Well, then you wanted your truck back without giving him any money.
I never demanded the truck that day. I told them they could keep using the truck because I realized they had work to do. They had to use their truck.
I suggest that you get a job, make some more money. The 1989 truck that he got out of impound is his. He paid for it. You would have lost it anyway. These were people that were very nice to you. No good deed goes unpunished. Do you understand?
Oh, yes.
The friendship is over?
Yes, I guess. I tried that.